Significant firsts. Morgan Rogers' first goal, first away win. First time since Chelsea in February at home that Villa's won a Premier League game after conceding first. Presented by the Birmingham-based, family-founded Vehemently Villa 24/7 services. Let's review Spurs 1, Villa 2. Hello from the parlor. It was so nice to have a long weekend with the family, but it's always great to get back at it. And how about these numbers? 3 points, most important thing. 5 wins in a row in all competitions and against Spurs. 6 wins from the last 8 games when you include the FA Cup tie in February. Isn't it amazing how fast things can turn around? I mean, it was an abject start with some concerns, but now we're just 2 points back of Tottenham. And our next opponent, Manchester City, is 4 points ahead of us in second place. Let's get some more numbers with the Coops. Dennis Cooper's video from London in the background. What stands out here is how the hosts created 3 big chances, missing 2 of them, whereas Villa created no big chances, but scored 2 goals on their only 2 shots on target. Both teams scored with their first shot on target. And both of Villa's goals coming from outside the box, which leads us to the bonus stat. Touches inside the opposition's box. 28-7 in favor of Spurs, which is quite remarkable. 4 of Villa's goals this season have come from outside the 18. Key issue. We got Spurs at a pretty good time, and I think we're going to see a better version of Tottenham as the season rolls along when you look at Solanke, Madison, and Kulusevski all out, along with others. And then in the warm-up on Sunday, Captain Christian Romero had to withdraw, forcing Kevin Danzo into the team. The Austrian did not look like a late replacement, and despite his failed attempts to break Luka Dean's ankle twice, actually had quite an effective game. We've been linked with him in the past, as has pretty much everybody, but it was his long throw specialty that seemed to flummox Villa, as it often does. And isn't it incredible? Every time he had a long throwing opportunity, there appeared a fresh, clean towel. Every time Villa had a chance for a long throw in, that towel was noticeably absent. Key issue number 3, marquee matchups. Normally around this time, I'm talking about squad selection and rotation, which does, of course, matter. And since Burnley, 2 changes, Gason and Onana in, Bogart and Watkins out. But I think many people looked at this and said, this game is going to be won or lost in midfield, and the midfield featured a couple of pretty robust customers. Paulinho and Bentancur are 2 players who could be described as rugged customers, not afraid to get stuck in, sometimes too much in my opinion. I mean, you put the 2 of them together, they have more cards than the Hallmark store. Paulinho set a record for yellow cards when he played with Fulham, and then Onana and Kamara are not what you'd call shrinking violets either, and it was the aforementioned Paulinho and Bentancur who had a major effect on the opening goal. And as I like to say on this show, it's usually a series of small catastrophes that leads to goal concessions. Amadou Onana, who is still trying to establish his Aston Villa career thanks mostly to injuries, plays a ball short coming out of the back. That leads to a corner. On the second phase, it's Paulinho who wins the back post header to a wide open Bentancur with no McGinn or Kamara anywhere near, and then the block attempt by Onana falls short, and all 5 central midfielders basically significantly involved in the opening goal. So 5 minutes in, and the key matchup, in my opinion, of the game going heavily towards the home side, with the 2 players in that matchup significantly involved in the 1-0 goal. And now you're thinking, uh-oh, is this another long day in front of us, another 4-1 type affair? But instead, and particularly Onana, Villa's midfield stabilized, and Boubacar Kamara had a very quietly impressive man-of-the-match type performance. I say quietly because the nature of Kamara's role is not meant to be sexy or stand out, as she's meant to win the ball and give it to somebody else. And his numbers on Sunday were incredible. 11 for 13 ground duels won, 3 for 4 on aerial duels, 4 tackles, 5 recoveries, 3 for 4 successful dribbles, 89% pass completion percentage. And the nature of his role means he comes up against their number 10, Xavi Simons, who he totally neutralized in this game. barely notice the guy, and he's an important player for them. You know who else delivers consistently quality work without a whole lot of fanfare? Mitchell and Owen Handsaker from 24/7 Services, huge Villa fans, well-traveled. I'm pretty sure they were at the game in London on the weekend. And you could put any tool in front of these guys and they'd know how to use it. But Owen does specialize in electrical, like installing perfectly placed recessed pot lighting in a kitchen, whereas Mitchell tends to gravitate towards the plumbing jobs in the kitchen or in a bathroom. And these two, on a project like this, complement each other like a pair of central midfielders. And if you could tell them apart, fair play to you, because twins short-circuit my brain. And then they have that telepathy going on where Mitchell thinks, I need a wrench right now, and Owen just hands it to him without even asking. So if you're going to primp up and buff up your crib the way you've always wanted it, what you need is guys you can trust in your home and who are going to deliver quality results without wasting time. Another really key matchup in this game was Luka Dean up against Mohamed Kudus. And they weren't dueling one another when Kudus whipped in the second phase ball that led to the 1-0 goal. But when they did come together, Dean, who is coming off a man-of-the-match performance for his country, did an admirable job of containing an extremely technical and pacey player who's going to cause any opponent a lot of troubles and who just helped his country, Ghana, qualify for the World Cup. If you want to take it all the way back to the transitional moment that preceded the game-winning goal, which I love to do because that's the inception of the goal, you'll find Emi Buendia joining Luka Dean to double up on Kudus, winning it back, and Spurs never really got a hold of it. Yeah, a couple of clearances, but they never really got it back until they kicked off. Big moment number 2, Buendia, banger. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's the goal of the year and a game winner. How could that be number 2? Well, simmer down. I'll quantify that a little bit later on. I was just telling you about the inception of this goal, and it was Buendia helping Dean double up on Kudus to win the ball back, and Villa never lost it again from there. The substitution was precisely the spark that Villa needed at that time, and Emi Buendia has finally rounded into the kind of form we all hoped he was capable of since joining us from Norwich. Obviously, the injury curtailed a lot of his progress, as did exposure to coaching, like from Unai Emery. And in 29 minutes, he showed that he's not only now keenly aware of where to be on the park at the important times intuitively, but also he's so much tidier on the ball. 10 for 10 on pass attempts, 1 for 1 accurate long balls, 1 for 1 successful dribbles. He had a bunch of recoveries and was 4 of 5 of ground duels won. Not to mention, he tried 1 shot on target and scored from it. Right now, Emi Buendia is easily the story of this season so far. I mean, this recent run of form has occurred without Jadon Sancho, Harvey Elliott, and for the most part, Yuri Tielemans. Who could have predicted that even 5 weeks ago? And Emi Buendia is like a brand new signing. He has 2 game-winning goals in all competitions. After Ezri Konsa, he is the most competitive player in the squad, and he's also the most energetic, which Unai Emery alluded to afterwards. He brought in a spark, a jolt into this game. These are just silly semantics, but, Spurs' goal came from a second phase. Could Villa's game-winning goal be considered a set-piece goal, given that there were a couple of Tottenham touches, but really Villa did have control of the ball the entire time from the corner? Anyway, who cares? It's probably the goal of the season, at least right now, because of the implications, how it keeps the momentum going, and all the important moments and decisions that led to it. Like, I often wonder how much of what Villa is doing is intentional versus improvisational. I love these little details. John McGinn is clearly indicating to Cash, play it back to your goalkeeper over here. At the other end, Emi Buendia is like, no, play it over here, play it over here. And our Polish Cafu, seeing that everybody was still upfield, chooses option B and then dials up a frozen rope in the direction of his opposite fullback. Now, the definition of creativity is doing that which nobody else expects. Well, I did not expect Matty Cash, still being booed by the grudge-harboring Spurs fans, to unleash a 42-yard laser. This is what we call a pinged ball in the direction of Luka Dean. Then, in a 1v1 duel against the very effective and effervescent DJ Spence, Luka Dean somehow reels that ball in with a high, sublime first touch, and then instinctively, in almost the same motion, moves it on to Emi Buendia. And isn't it fascinating? Here was Dean and Buendia doubling up on Kudus to win the ball back earlier in the transitional moment, and now here they are doubling up on Spence at the other end with no Mohamed Kudus in sight anywhere. And then what can you say about Emi Buendia from Argentina? Against Feyenoord, he bends a right-footed ball around the goalkeeper for the game winner. Here, he sends a left-footed curler into the far corner, leaving the goalkeeper rooted to the ground with Morgan Rogers as a visual distraction, being kept onside by none other than Kevin Danzo. And the number one big moment that defined Spurs 1, Villa 2, Rogers Ripper. I had pontificated during a previous short on whether Morgan Rogers' England exploits this past window would help him kick on in his club career. I've also wondered aloud on this program numerous times whether Unai Emery was going to let his prized possession play his way out of a funk, and why? Why not sit him down to watch from the sidelines occasionally? Well, in minute number 37, we got our answer to both of those questions. I said earlier how the definition of creativity as it pertains to football is when a player does something that nobody else expects. Well, I didn't expect Morgan Rogers, after luckily winning the ball back from Xavi Simons, to step to the edge of the area and uncork a howitzer that had both power and dip. Well, goalkeeper Vicario also did not expect it because he got nowhere near this. Morgan Rogers ends his Premier League goal-scoring drought after 8 games, pelting it into the same netting that he did last year in this fixture. And question Unai Emery at your own peril. He knew this type of moment was overdue and that it was coming, and he was absolutely right. And not long before halftime, in minute number 37, the entire tone and complexion of the game changed like that, and you could feel it through the TV speakers. I mean, Spurs are a team who have struggled in their palatial surroundings, and we would not be talking about an Emi Buendia game winner without that moment. Rogers' next Premier League outing will come against Manchester City at home on Sunday in a fixture last year that he dominated. He scored the winning goal, set up the 1-0 goal. He was beastly all around against the club that said, "We wish you well in your future endeavors, young man." The only real question I have is, will Unai Emery rest him on Thursday? If I was a betting man, the answer would probably be no. Random issue, but how much satisfaction are you taking from the complete dumpster fire that is Nottingham Forest? And all of that is totally self-inflicted. And there were actually Villa fans who were suggesting we should dump Unai and bring in Nuno. That's how fast things can change. And although I despise Manchester United and all the unjustified hype they get, seeing Liverpool lose its 4th game in a row in all competitions after the amount of spending they did in the summer allows me to introduce the German term for taking great pleasure in the misery of others: Schadenfreude. Villa's second trip to Holland in just 3 weeks is a real opportunity to put a stranglehold on the Europa League's initial phase. They want to finish top 8, avoid that playoff round, but they also maybe want to get some players some meaningful minutes to maybe kickstart their time in claret and blue. And would you look at the discrepancy in squad value here? I had to double check to make sure this was correct. I mean, this is a young and shoestring club that's in the Europa League because of a dramatic cup win last season. They opened their Europa League campaign with a loss at home to the former Steaua Bucharest before going away to Panathinaikos and winning. But in the league, mid-table form, 10 points from 9 games. I always worry that an international break can actually halt a positive role that a team can be on. But in this case, I actually wonder if it helped give certain players a little bit of a boost heading back into the Premier League. So our first away win of the season, I have a long list of Spurs supporting friends I need to call up and try to badger into a psychotic episode. So until Go Ahead Eagles, safe travels, cheers, it's coffee for a morning record, and obviously, up the mighty Villa.